All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started. I expect a few more people to keep trickling in, but we have all our guest speakers here. So just beforehand, we have a little matter of business first for DSDA members. We are going to vote on a constitution change to add a preceptor committee. The responsibility of the preceptor committee will be to maintain a roster of DSDA members who want to precept once they become credentialed. And then they'll have the responsibility of maintaining this list and then following up every year to check for eligibility and willingness to continue to precept students. The language of the change will read, the preceptor committee shall be responsible for collecting and maintaining a roster of former DSD members willing to serve as preceptors once credentialed. The committee will contact RDNs annually to update contact information and willingness or ability to precept. The preceptor committee shall include one committee chair and one committee member. All in favor for those, you can either say aye or text it in the comment box. That said, if you're on the panel, you're no longer a DSD member. Remember, you're not a voting member. All right, so we have our first aye. And then Jessica, if you want to make sure to record this. Any nays? All right, so the change is passed. We will not have a preceptor committees. For those on the executive committee, I'll make that change and I will probably get that stamped this weekend. So you'll see that in your inbox. So that said, what we will do is we will go ahead and get started on our panel. And what I'm going to do is usually I like to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it off to y'all today to introduce yourselves. I try to share my screen. I hope y'all all see it. So what we'll do is we'll go in order of the roster here. I think I've got an alphabetical by last name. So we'll start with Naomi. Just say your name, where you did your internship if you have, what you're doing now, anything interesting about yourself, where you're from. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. Hi, can you all hear me okay? Okay, great. I'm Naima Clark. I am currently in the process of waiting to match during the spring match for my internship. I graduated last year in the spring. So spring of 2021, I graduated. And I can't really think of anything interesting about me. I'm always really bad with that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we'll just skip that. And I guess Lindsay was the other person who was going to be on the panel, who was another former student who was in the process of applying for internships. But now it's just me, so I can give you guys a good idea of if you have any questions about, I guess, the most recent process. So I can give you guys a good idea on that because I literally just finished up my interviews and all that kind of stuff. So match day is on Sunday, so I'll find out on Sunday. So any current questions you guys have about the application and all that kind of stuff, I can definitely answer for you.
All right, thank you so much. Dana, if you want to go ahead.
Hi there, I'm Dana, and I'm sorry, I was trying to get my charger, so I didn't hear what things that you wanted to hear from us. Anybody?
Sorry, right when you did that, my dog decided to break in the house. Just, where you did your internship or where you currently work, maybe something interesting about yourself or where you're from. If you have two crazy dogs that decide to bust into the meeting.
Just one crazy dog, but he's downstairs. I did my internship through with Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. I still am in Nashville, Tennessee. Currently working at WIC at two different little teeny tiny counties where I am literally the one and only WIC person at one of them. And something interesting about me, I mean, not super interesting. I think there's probably lots of y'all who are in this place, but my perspective is just from a career changer. And so I was always the older one in the internship, and a good half of my preceptors were probably younger than I am. So it was, if you guys want kind of intimidated by that process, let me know, and we get to questions.
All right, thanks so much, Dana. Shannon.
Hey, I'm Shannon. I actually did garden to table distance internship. So I have experience with distance and finding preceptors if anybody's interested in that process. I'm currently a clinical dietitian at a 100-bed community hospital here in North Carolina. There's one other RD, and she does strictly inpatient, and I cover inpatient, cardiac rehab, oncology, behavioral health, lots of different things. So if anybody's interested in those fields, I have lots of good advice about that. But and I don't know, I can't remember what else we were supposed to talk about.
Perfect, Shannon. Thank you so much. Victoria.
Hello, my name is Victoria. I graduated from UA in December of 2020. I did my internship through the Iowa State University distance internship. That was like an accelerated internship that finished in 6 months. Let's see, passed my RD exam in July of 2021. And I'm currently working as an eating disorder dietitian at an outpatient clinic. There is one other dietitian there. And I also do like private practice, one-on-one nutrition counseling via Zoom. And I also do some nutrition writing for like different brands and things. So I kind of have my hand in everything. So if you have any questions about any of that, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Victoria. Is Rachel here? She said she might be a little bit late, so if she'll probably just join us in a few minutes and we'll get her introduction later. So just to let y'all know what the plan is today, is it's just going to be an open floor Q&A. So if you have a question, just feel free to chime in. If you're shy, you can put it in the chat box and I'll read it. And you can either direct your question to a specific RD. So if you're like, wow, I'm interested in, writing and consulting, I want to ask Victoria a question. You can do that, and I'll open up that Word document again so you can see, who does what, in case, I know that we went through that pretty quickly. And I apologize, my dogs are upstairs going crazy right now. So yeah, we'll just do it that way. And then if it's just a blanket question that you have, any of the RDs, feel free to respond. It doesn't have to be one. You get more than one reply. We're all going to have different experiences. So the more perspectives and the more feedback we get, that's great. So we'll go ahead and get started. Does anyone want to be the one to break the ice and ask a question?
I'll ask a question.
All right, Rachel.
Hi. I have a question for Victoria. Hi, Victoria. I'm very interested to hear more about your accelerated internship that was distance. I most likely will need to do something distance because I have 2 young kids at home. And how difficult is it to get into a program like that? How many are there? I guess that's where I'd start.
Okay, yeah. So the internship that I did at Iowa State, that was going to be the last class of their accelerated internship. They were actually transitioning to like a longer internship that included a master's degree with a new requirement for 2024. So I'm not sure like what other internships are available that are accelerated, but I really enjoyed distance. I don't think it's any harder to match to a distance internship than it is to an in-person internship. I think, you definitely have to have good time management and things like that. It's very kind of self-directed. And at least during my internship, I kind of got to pick what areas I wanted to focus on. So that was one of the nice things about the distance internship. You set up your own preceptors. So you kind of have the ability to pick the dietitians that you want to work with or the areas that you want to work with. Of course, there are like your requirements. You have to satisfy certain requirements, but you can kind of pick your area of focus. So hopefully that answered your question, but unfortunately, I don't know if there are any other accelerated programs available right now.
University of Houston has a accelerated distance program.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
All right, we had Rachel join us. Rachel, what we did is we went around and had the RDs introduce themselves. If you want to quickly say where you did your internship and what you're doing now, and maybe something interesting about yourself, where you're from.
Sure. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everybody's faces tonight. I know you can't see mine right now. I just put my toddler in bed, so I've been running around. But I did a distance internship. So my internship, I had to find all of my own preceptors. And I started very well in advance from when my internship was actually going to start. And I think that's something really important that everybody should know when they're looking for preceptors and doing a distance internship, is to look as early as possible. So my first rotation, I was actually did part of my clinical with a private practice dietitian, and she specialized in GI. Then I also did the rest of my clinical rotation was actually with a cancer hospital. So it was with Moffitt Cancer Center, and it was an amazing experience. It's a totally different population. It's a huge learning curve for anybody that doesn't have experience in oncology, but it was a very valuable experience. You deal with a lot of people that have comorbidities, because usually oncology goes hand in hand with a lot of other health issues. Then I did my food service rotation was a little bit different. It wasn't really your traditional food service facility. I was under a RD that was the director of nutrition for the USF athletic department. So I got to experience more with the athletes and hands-on. So it wasn't really with food service per se. They more had fueling stations. So it was a little bit different, but it was a great experience. And then my community internship, many of you may have had the issue with finding preceptors if you're looking right now, due to COVID issues that have been going on. Because of that, I actually did a distance. So I did a virtual. So I think it's important to mention that when you do your internship, the academy does allow you to do some hours that are virtual experiences. They don't necessarily have to be in person. So I would just look that up if you're interested in doing that. But mine was with a school system. It's for an elementary school district. And I tell you what, it's so awesome to work with RDs in the education program. It's not what you would expect it to be. And they're very loving of the kids, and they just want to, introduce all these new foods and some good nutrition into their day. So I think they're all great experiences, and I'm happy to expand on that if anybody's interested.
With what Rachel said, it just kind of made me think of something about the application process. So one thing, like if you're applying for a distance internship, definitely like read all of the requirements before going into the DICAS process. Because with the Iowa State University internship application, I had to submit a spreadsheet of all my secured preceptors with my application. So it wasn't like get accepted to the internship and then find your preceptors. I had to do all of that before. So just something to keep in mind as well. Just look for that and see if that is a requirement for the internship you're looking to apply to.
And I agree, Victoria. Same thing. My internship also required me to find preceptors prior to me submitting my application. And it can be stressful. Just know to keep going, keep reaching out to more people. post on LinkedIn, post on Facebook. You'd be surprised at how many preceptors that you can find just through social networking.
But don't be scared, because not all distance ones require you to have them all in place before. A lot of them do, but not all of them do. So a lot of them just require maybe the clinical preceptor, because generally that's the hardest one to find. So.
And to that end, to your point, Shannon, too, some of the programs, I know mine did, they actually have a list of preceptors that they already have affiliation agreements with. And many of those directors are happy to share those with you. So reach out to those directors ahead of time, introduce yourself, make sure that they know who you are, why you're interested so much in that program, because it never hurts to say hello, to really know if you want to be a part of that program, because this application is not just for those programs, but are you going to enjoy being in that program or not? So you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you too. I think it's really important that you understand, what their values are, and, just reach out to them for help, because my director was phenomenal, and she sent me a list of preceptors in my area. And while I didn't use those, it's still very valuable to have that information, especially if you're feeling stuck.
Awesome. That's a lot of good information. Anyone else? Any questions? Don't be shy.
I'll ask a question coming from the other side. Kim Strand here. How do you all feel that UA prepared you for your internship? Did you feel confident going into it? Were there areas that you thought maybe our curriculum needed to be improved? How did you feel, kind of on those first couple of days?
I'm going to jump in on this one. I felt extraordinarily well prepared for my internship, and we still had plenty of kind of rotation readiness the first few weeks in the beginning of the internship, but nothing was really, wasn't blindsided by a lot of stuff. We did even have like a TPN rotation, and, most people don't get any information about calculating TPN or tube feeds or anything in their undergrad classes. So that was not easy by any means, but I wasn't blindsided by it either. And then, really the only thing that I was thinking about today about what would be helpful is I'm pretty certain every single preceptor, and Vanderbilt has a 60 or something like that rotations and preceptors. I think every single one of them wanted a handout of some sort, and I don't remember making all that many handouts. And not that that's like something that you really need to know how to do, but like it's kind of nice to just like have a really good footing in how to make a nice and effective handout. So that was really my experience. I thought it was I was very, very, very grateful for Alabama and setting myself up for success in the internship and passing the RD exam as well, for sure.
Okay, so I'm also going to answer that question. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Dana?
All you.
Okay, so I think Alabama prepared me very well. I will say that the MS program did have some more in-depth information that I was happy to have already learned prior to starting my internship. I started the master's program in August of 2020, and I started my internship in January of 2021. And there was some more in-depth information that I was really happy to have. Now I know that now the curriculum is starting to migrate towards that required MS, so it's going to be a little bit different. I also, Dana, just like you, had some preceptors that wanted handouts made. But when I was in undergrad, was when COVID hit. So my 491 was done virtually. So I did get that experience. And I do think that experience with making those kind of educational handouts is really great to have. So if it's not in the traditional 491, then I definitely think it should be included, because I did use those tools. But other than that, you know, you would be surprised at how well prepared you are. I think all of us feel very kind of intimidated before walking into an internship. Are we ready for this? Do we know everything that we're supposed to know? And for the most part, preceptors are very understanding and ask the questions that you want. You know, don't be scared to ask a question. I would carry a notebook around with me, and if I asked a question, I'd write down the answer so that I knew it for the next time that I came across that same kind of scenario. But UA definitely prepared me for, you know, the basic, all the information really that you need to do well in an internship.
I don't really have anything new to add to all of that, but I do agree with pretty much everything they've said. Felt really well prepared for my internship. And even though I cried through most of my MNT classes in my master's program, I do think that they were very, very helpful. And I don't feel like I have had to go back and learn something new. Sometimes you might have forgotten something, but it's all come back to me just to refresh it again when I come across a particular clinical situation. So.
I agree. Nothing to add really. It pretty much sums it up. Although I will say, Dana, I also had that TPN experience. I actually referred back to our lecture and our notes, and I emailed it to my group and my internship, and I was like, hey, you know, refer to this, because we were all really struggling with that. So it was nice to be able to refer back to that.
All right, well, if none of the other RDs are going to have any input on the question, does anyone else have anything else here? All right, well, we have a question from the chat. Did you do any volunteer hours or have any jobs that you felt helped you in your internship?
I'll answer that something real quick. I actually am a career changer. So I came from food service management background. So that was super helpful getting through the food service. Sorry, my cat's coming to visit. Getting through the food service part of the internship, I actually got to claim prior credit for about 150 hours of food service. So that was awesome. And then I also, when we moved to Raleigh in 2017, I started volunteering with Interfaith Food Shuttle, which is a combination food bank, nutrition education. They do all sorts of things in the community here in Raleigh. And so I volunteered with them probably about 10 to 15 hours a week, doing nutrition education, cooking classes, mobile food pantries, things like that. So that was my volunteer experience that was super helpful. The internship that I ended up going through was Garden to Table, which is very much based on food and cooking. So.
I'm going to add my perspective on this again, and I'm not an RD, just for y'all that don't know, I'm not an RD. Again, I'm in the process of waiting to match to my internship. So for a volunteer experience, I will say, so like I said, I graduated last year in the spring, and I waited until this spring match to apply. In that time after I graduated, I did use that time to volunteer. So I continued working my regular restaurant job. I do also have food service management experience, which I think helped me out a lot with my application. But I volunteered with an RD in my area who had a private practice. So I volunteered with him for a few months. And then I also volunteered creating meal plans for a personal trainer that I know. So I have been doing his meal plans and his nutrition for his clients and put that on my application as well. So I've been using my downtime after graduation to gain volunteer experience. And I believe that that helped me out a lot with my application process. And they do look for those kinds of things on the application, like volunteer experience. You can put your work experience on there, experience that you get from doing school things that you get academic credit for, you can put on your application, and the application will calculate all of those hours that you put in, and it will total it up for you, and it will show the programs that you apply to, everything that you've done. So anything that you think is relevant, even if you don't think it might quite be relevant, if it shows that you have leadership experience, if it shows that you have experience working as a team, anything like that, definitely put it on your application. When I first started my application, I was worried that it wasn't going to be that great, and that I didn't have enough to put on it. And I was super, super nervous. But after I completed it, I was like, I have way more to give myself credit for than I realized. So don't sell yourself short. Anything that you've done, if you question it, just put it on there just in case, because you can always explain it in your interview and kind of explain how it applies to what would make you a great intern with whatever programs you apply to.
So I have a completely different perspective to that to add, just so that you guys can see both sides of it. I did not have any volunteer hours, nothing, because during the entire time of me working or going to school, I started in 2017 and I was working full time to support myself while going through school. So I did not have that. And I was also a career changer. I have another bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida back in 2008 to 2012. So I was a career changer too. And you don't necessarily have to have that volunteer experience. However, if you have work experience, that is highly valuable. Just like Naima, and I apologize if I don't say your name right. Okay. Just like Naima said, don't sell yourself short, because all of those help. I was in medical billing, and I did talk about your customer service. Have you ever worked in customer service before? That's the same kind of thing as inpatient care. You still have to have that good customer service. All of those things apply when you go to your internship. So you got to think of it of how can this apply to patient care? Would the internship directors see this as a valuable experience of leadership that I can apply while I'm in the program? And all of those things do apply. So don't be scared if you don't have enough volunteer hours because you were working. Highlight your strengths and what you did do and how that can interpret to you being a great intern.
Real quick, I just want to piggyback off of what Rachel said really quick. I'm sorry, Victoria.
No, you're fine.
Like Rachel said, so I think looking back, I wish I had applied last spring versus this spring. I do appreciate the volunteer experience that I gained, but I scared myself into thinking that I didn't have enough experience, which is why I waited a year to apply to the internship. But looking back, I shouldn't have waited, I don't think. Like I said, I do appreciate the volunteer experience, but I think I would have been just fine if I had applied right during the spring when I was graduating. So don't think that you don't have enough volunteer experience. If you think you're ready, just go ahead and apply. Don't wait a whole year to do the whole application process.
Could I ask a question on that? I think from the beginning of the school process, you kind of get scared as a student into how difficult it will be to match and get your internship. There's this 50% match rate. I mean, they tell you from the beginning. I every day think about it. Am I doing enough? I need to keep my GPA up. And what is enough? How do you know? I guess. And is it truly like something to be very afraid of?
So speaking from going through the whole match process, I know Naima, you're in the middle of it and we're all sending you good vibes for this weekend for sure. But I went through the whole thing, started in 2016, and I decided to not think about the internship process whatsoever until the end of my schooling. because I knew that I would get bogged down with all that sort of thing. Obviously, you can't just like make yourself forget all of those things that you're already thinking about right now, but it's just doing all the little things each day and as you're going on in the process to set yourself up for success. So, not all internships need all the pieces either. They don't all need 100 thousands of volunteer hours or super good grades or this or that or whatever else. There are programs that are specifically suited for each person and each individual, and it will be an amazing experience for you. So you just have to find the right one that makes sense for, everything that you're bringing to the table, and then, put your effort into that. And that's probably my best advice for kind of getting a little bit overwhelmed with the internship matching process. That's a little bit insanity, but there you go.
I agree with Dana. I think she makes a really great point. Do the little things every day in your classes, and try not to overwhelm yourself with the matching process. It does take time. It can be very tedious, but right now, just focusing on what you can do each day in your classes and what you're learning, that's going to help better prepare you for that match. And also, when you're researching the DIs that you're looking at doing, look at all of their requirements. If your strengths and what you want to do match better with one program than another, you're going to rank that one differently, right? So look at the requirements. Some require 2.75 GPA, some require 3.5 GPA. So really match that up with what you're looking for and what the strengths are in your application too. You don't have to apply to the same one that your friend's doing. You don't have to feel like one is better than the other if it doesn't match exactly what you want to do. So focus on what your strengths are during that process, and just know that you're doing everything you can right now. All of us have different lives. So just because one person has 500 volunteer hours doesn't necessarily make them a better candidate than you. You just have to highlight your strengths for what you've done during your school.
Awesome, that's great advice. We have a couple questions from the chat. The first one, is there anything you wish you would have known or done to help you prepare for the DI match process?
Relax. Just to kind of like piggyback off of what Dana and Naima and Rachel said, like just try not to stress yourself out about the process. Like as soon as the portal opens, like get started on it, do a little bit each day, put in what you can, request those letters of recommendation early, just kind of like do what you can each day with all of your other responsibilities that you have to do. And like they said, highlight your strengths, and as the process gets closer to match day, just kind of relax as much as you can. Try not to stress about it, because once that application is submitted, there's nothing else you can do except for wait. So, just try not to stress as much as possible, I guess. Which can be easier said than done.
For sure. And Sunday is the absolute most stressful day of the whole thing, especially considering how late they do it. I hate that, but that was the worst part for me for sure. But I fully agree with Victoria on that part.
You might also be surprised too. I was, and I didn't know if it was real. I got an email from the program prior to match day asking for me to rank them as my top choice. That may happen to you. If it does, it means that, and it'll say specifically in their letter, don't don't stress about it every single day after you press that button. You know, distract yourself, find something else to do, find something constructive to do. I know that it can be like every day you're kind of worrying about it. I would say though, prior to actually doing the application, I agree with what they've said. Get started as soon as it opens. Don't overwhelm yourself or wait until the last minute just because you're so scared about doing it. Every single day, just go in there, do one thing at a time, because it is very time consuming. But it's not as bad as you think it is. It's not nearly as scary as you think it is. It's just that you have to kind of pace yourself when you're doing it. Another thing I'd like to mention too before doing that application is just be aware that you have to write a personal statement. You need to kind of think about what your strengths are and what you would like to highlight in that personal statement. That's just something, you know, before you start the application, maybe you're 3 weeks out before the application actually opens, maybe write down some of those points of things that you would like to highlight in there, just to get yourself brainstorming and get kind of an idea of what you want to write about.
That's a good point. And also just to add, like when I was writing my personal statement, I used the UA, the Writing Resource Center. So they helped me edit multiple times. I also had some of my instructors at UA look over it and give me any, feedback. I think I went through like 6 or 7 drafts. So I think starting early is a good thing, even before the match opens. And, it's okay if you start with something, start with one thing and then your 7th draft is completely different. It's good to have all that feedback and kind of a different perspective.
I completely agree with all of that. Definitely do not stress yourself out. Like I said, another reason why I waited so long to apply was because I was stressed and I was afraid of the application process. I didn't do it during my last semester because I was afraid that I was gonna mess myself up or something. So it's really not as intimidating and as scary as they make it out to be or as it may seem. Like everyone said, it is very tedious and very time consuming, but you can get it done. Also, don't stress about, and this is just my personal experience, don't stress about turning it in early. The deadline for the application is there for a reason. I literally turned mine in with 10 minutes to spare. And had interviews with all 3 of the programs that I applied to. So don't think that you have to turn it in a couple weeks early. I don't even know if they know when you submit your application. They may or may not, but do they?
Directors will know if you turned it in early. And there are a handful of programs that do actually give you like an extra bonus point. So it's not that you should stress yourself out for it, but it is something to consider. So
good to know. Yeah, good to know. And some programs do have like the pre-select. Most of the time it's only for students that did their undergrad program, but that's not always the case. So that's a big thing. Doing your research is a really, really big thing. And honestly, that was the most time consuming part for me, was doing my research into all the different programs and narrowing it down to which programs I felt like I wanted to apply to and which programs I felt like would fit best for me. And you just have to, I literally had like 50 tabs open on my computer where I was just like, okay, I'm going to look through all the requirements for this one, see what they're looking for, see what rotations they have, if I'm going to be required to move. Another big thing for me was how to pay for it. I only applied to programs where I can use financial aid to pay for the program. And there are not very many of those out there. A lot of the times you have to pay for your own internship out of pocket, and people take out loans and do other things, or they work and they save money. So that the financial aspect of it is a big thing to consider. I would recommend writing down a list of what you're looking for in a program, whether you want to move, if that's like areas you may want to go to, different things like that, the financial part of it, how you're going to pay for it. Write a list out, and as you go through your programs that you're thinking of applying to, you can weed out which programs you don't want, because it was so hard for me to get down to the 3 programs that I chose, but I was able to do that. And that's a really important thing, is figuring out what you're looking for. So I would recommend really putting your time and effort into the research, and also make sure you get your transcripts in on like early. That would be one of the first things I would do, is go ahead and request your transcripts from your schools. I went to 3 different schools that I had to get transcripts from, and one of them actually wasn't even in by the time my application was submitted. So make sure you get your transcripts in early. Also, going off of what Victoria said about the personal statement, make sure that would be another thing that I would go ahead and start on early, because when you ask your references for references, a lot of times they will ask you for your personal, like a copy of your personal statement, or at least an outline. They may ask you for your resume, just something that they can go off of to write your references for you. So make sure you already have something that you can give to them, because, and that's another thing, ask your references for their recommendations early, because they have lives and stuff that they can't just stop what they're doing and do your recommendation for you. So give them enough time to get it in and have that in by the time the application deadline comes. So personal statement, references, and transcripts, 3 big things that you want to get done as early in the process as possible.
I completely agree with what Naima just said. And especially if you're asking instructors for a reference, instructors get inundated with the amount of references and that they have to put in for people, especially from Match. So, make sure that you're asking them a month or 2 in advance from when you actually need it. That way you're giving them enough time. I know that one of my instructors did ask for my resume. So make sure that you have that updated before you even start asking for those references. That's something you can update anytime. Just keep it up to date. If you do volunteer hours, you can put it on there. Any of those things that you can do ahead of time to make sure that you're prepared for those questions. You're not trying to just quickly do a resume when you ask for that reference.
If that's all for that question, just as a heads up, I earmarked this for about an hour and about 15 minutes out. I have 3 questions on the docket, and so I know we're probably going to run over an hour. If you need to dip out at the hour mark, that includes the panel. I'm not going to hold you guys hostage. I know y'all have lives. That said, I'm here as long as people are willing to stay, the panel's willing to stay, and people have questions. So again, any of our panel members, if y'all need to leave at the hour mark, I completely understand, and any of the members. So the next question that I have here is, I'm also currently waiting to find out if I matched in preparation for the internship. What, if anything, in the internship were you not expecting, or was there anything that you wish you had known or been given a heads up about before going into the internship?
I think one of my best advice that somebody had given to me before the internship was just relax this summer. Like if you're matching right now and you are going to be starting in a few months or at the next school year time, just relax and enjoy your time, because you've been working really, really, really hard for probably at least 4 or 5 years at this point now, and enjoy that time. So that is my piece of advice.
Coming from a distance internship perspective, one thing I was not expecting was for one of my preceptors to fall through. Like, they couldn't come to an agreement with the school on the contract, and whatever, bureaucracy. So I ended up having to find another preceptor, but my internship was very supportive and understanding. They said at the beginning of the internship, like, if that happens, they told you exactly what to do. So, just that was something that was a little bit stressful and wasn't expecting, but luckily was able to handle it pretty quickly, and it wasn't a huge issue. But wasn't expecting that.
All right, does anyone have anything else to add? All right.
I'll say that I'll say the same from Victoria, just to kind of echo what she said. One of my preceptors, now this was prior to the internship starting, but it didn't work out. And I did have to find another one, and I resorted to doing a virtual experience. So know that you do have that option to do a virtual experience with a certain amount of hours, and use that to your advantage too, if you need to.
I'll also say during your internship, if there's some experience that, is possible in that particular internship, but it's not being offered to you, ask. And I didn't think about this when I was doing my own clinical rotations, but I am precepting now as a clinical for clinical rotations. And there's so much stuff that I am trying to find for these interns to do, because I want them to have those experiences that I didn't necessarily get, but they're available for them to see, like going to see the cardiac cath lab or spending time in the wound clinic and things that, I would have been really interested in, but didn't necessarily get the chance. And I didn't think about, pushing for that. So but definitely if there's experiences you want to have in your rotation, you should ask about them.
All right, anyone else? All right, the next question, and I think this is a great one because I'm feeling a little burnout right now. If you were to go through the UA program again, what's one thing you would do differently from courses, volunteering, jobs, avoiding burnout, emotional health, etc.?
I think if I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't take such huge loads of courses. I just wanted to hurry up and get it done. I was a stay-at-home mom. I dropped out of college before becoming a mom, and then I decided to go back to school, and I just wanted to hurry up and get it done. So I took as many classes that I could possible and still do good and get good grades. But I feel like the amount of studying that I had to do, I didn't retain a lot of that information because I was just constantly cramming. So when it came time to study for the RD exam, I felt like, yeah, the stuff was familiar, but I had to spend a lot of time kind of relearning it, if that makes sense. So if you have the ability to take fewer classes and to kind of take your time, I would recommend it. You'll get less burnt out, but coming from the perspective of wanting to just get it done, I totally get that too. But if I had to do it over again, I think I would not take so many courses.
I second that.
I purposefully did not, or made sure that I didn't take an overwhelming amount of classes because I knew I was going to be working full time. And so I did go into it. I dabbled 1 or 2 classes and then built myself up to 3 or 4. However, I didn't think about the summer classes being shorter. So I was very comfortable with 3 classes during a regular semester, but then did 3 classes in the summer. And that was really not very smart. So I learned that lesson. So just remember, summer classes are shorter. And that's my big takeaway.
I would say, yes, summer classes are definitely shorter. But also consider some of the classes that are out there that are interim courses. If you want to lessen your load, say you're working full time, because I was the whole UA program undergrad, I was working full time, and all of my studying was at night, and then I became a mom during that whole process too. So it was a lot. But what I did do was take 2 classes in the fall, and then I took 1 winter interim class. So there is that option. If that works out for you, great. Yes, it is during the holidays and stuff, but it can be a great way to add in those extra 3 credit hours if you don't want to overwhelm yourself during that semester, but you still want to get that 3 credit hours in.
That's great advice. Does anyone have anything else on this question? All right, next question. How did you decide what area of dietetics you wanted to go into?
I'm gonna jump on this real quick because I'm sure everybody else is already in their area for right now. I haven't gotten into one yet, but that's what I'm planning on using the internship for, because I still don't know. I have a few areas of interest. Sports dietetics. I definitely want to do some stuff with WIC, clinical stuff, but I have no idea exactly where I want to go. And that's one of the reasons why I applied to the internships I applied to, because of the rotations they have. So I'm definitely planning on using the internship to decide what area of dietetics I want to start in also, because I still do want to hit multiple concentration areas. But I think that the internship will definitely help me decide where I want to go once I begin practicing. So
That was very valuable advice, because I also didn't know what area of dietetics I really wanted to go into. And I had the same thing. I had a few areas that I was interested in, which is why I did a distance internship, so that I could really choose my rotations. And I got the athletics, and I got the oncology, and I got school nutrition. And it really did show me what I enjoyed the most, and the population I really enjoyed working with. I will say athletics was not what I thought it was going to be. It was really different than what I thought it was going to be. But it was such a great experience to see all of those different areas that you're passionate about. And, Shannon made a good point too. If you're not getting those experiences, ask for them, because you really want to know if that's going to be a career that you're happy in and a part of dietetics that you're happy in. You need to know what they do every single day. So don't be scared if you don't know what area of dietetics you want to go into yet, because I think you'll be surprised at how much you learn about yourself through your internship.
Yes, absolutely. The internship is a fantastic place to figure out that sort of thing, and was the number one reason why I picked Vanderbilt, because there are so many rotations. It's a little bit insane. But going through that is just, yeah, super helpful. Very much validated that clinical dietetics was never, ever, ever going to be an option for me. And I'm thankful that I didn't have to, resort to that sort of thing. And I just finished that up this past summer and passed the RD in June or July. I knew I did want to go into like community kind of dietetics of some sort, but I still didn't really have it narrowed down. And I'm very, very thankful that that's all worked out for where I have been able to get a position, and I have this nice little health clinics that I get to work at, and WIC is very fun, even if it is still virtual, because the pandemic's never going to be over. But one day maybe we'll get to see the little kiddos in clinic again too, and I'll be able to have that full satisfaction of like having my whole job being there and in person and everything else. So
It's funny that you said that you definitely didn't want to do clinical after you did your internship, because I was dead set on community until my internship, and I actually enjoyed clinical far more than I thought I would. And so I did the distance internship. I had found my preceptor. They actually called me and offered me a job at the same hospital that I interned at about 6 to 9 months after my rotation. So that's where I'm currently working. And like I said, I cover a lot of different areas, inpatient and outpatient. And I have to say inpatient is definitely not my favorite, but I spend a lot of time in the oncology. And that's pretty much where I think I will want to go. The internship helped me get the job that I have, but it also gave me that experience to find an area that I'm just fascinated with and feel like I can actually do some good. you know, and I get to spend time with the same patients over and over again. And patients very quick, don't get to see them for very long. And so, like I said, clinical was not I never thought I would go there, but here I am.
I definitely echo what the other said about using the internship to kind of find out what areas you may be most interested in. Like I definitely thought I would like clinical and I didn't like it at all. I did not want to be calculating tube feedings and all of that. I was like to leave that in undergrad and in the internship, but I wanted to work with people who have eating disorders because I had an eating disorder myself as an older teenager. And during my internship, we had a very short unit on eating disorders. And having gone through that unit, I was kind of a little bit scared about working with people with eating disorders because they're so complex. And then when I moved to Michigan here, I applied for a job at a clinic working with adolescents who have eating disorders, interviewed for it, thought it went great. They ended up hiring someone else. So I took a job that I really wasn't crazy about, but I just wanted a job. It was at a long-term care facility. About 6 weeks later, the doctor for the adolescent eating disorder clinic emailed me and said, "Hey, do you still want the job?" So I was very kind of like conflicted about leaving a job that I had just started. I felt like that was very unprofessional, but I really didn't enjoy it. I did not feel like I was going to grow there. And so I took this job here at the eating disorder clinic and I couldn't be happier. Like I love my job. I go to work every day, happy to go. I've never woken up and thought, God, I don't want to go to work today. And I've spent a lot of my life doing that. So I'm just very happy in my current job. So, and also like, just to say like, just because I don't like long-term care or clinical doesn't mean you won't. Like everybody has a different area that they're going to work best in, and we all have kind of different interests and strengths. So, you know, find out what works best for you. And then in terms of like the consulting work that I do on the side, during my internship, I did some like blog writing and just writing for some of my private practice interns. And one of them actually asked me to like continue on working for her. So I've been doing some of that for her. And I've always enjoyed writing. When I first went to college, I was an English major. And so to be able to kind of combine my joy for writing and then my passion for nutrition is just really cool. And to get paid for that is even cooler. So I love doing that. And yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Does anyone have anything else to add for this one? All right, well, we are at the hour mark again. I'm not going to hold anyone hostage. I don't have any more questions from the chat. Does anyone else have any questions they have for our panel? All right, well, if no one has any more questions, I cannot thank you guys enough. This was really informative. I took a lot out of it. I hope everyone else did as well. Yeah, thanks again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Great job setting this up. I think this should be like an every semester thing for all the, you know, outcoming RDs.
All right, well, when I pull you again next year. All right, I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you.